In preparation for this talk, I just wanted to deliver the most value possible in 5 minutes. And when I looked over the past year, couple months of my life, I realized that what's given me the most value has definitely been learning how to be productive while also doing the things that genuinely bring me joy. So hopefully I can pack this down into 5 minutes and you can leave here with a little more tools in your arsenal to go about your day. So what I want to be talking about is hacking productivity. So I'm pretty sure we're all familiar with this message. If you're an entrepreneur, you've heard that saying of, chewing glass, staring into the abyss, the idea of waking up at 5 a.m., of always hustling, always getting things done. It's this hustle culture that we buy into. But personally, I think that over the past year, I've realized that it's not the processes that we should be aiming towards, but it's rather the result. So it's not that you want to send an additional email or that you want to block out an additional timestamp on your calendar, but it's rather the results that you can achieve with that. And so analyzing that, you need to look at the time spent doing what you're doing. And this brings us to the Pareto principle. So this has actually also been mentioned in LaunchX, but you spend 20% of the effort getting 80% of the results. And so ultimately hacking productivity gets down to how can you maximize the amount of time that you spend in that 20% region. And so that kind of brings us to the productivity equation. And so when I learned about this greatly changed the way that I looked at productivity. And the way that this equation works is that you've got your useful output on top, which is what your productivity is, and these are your results. And then underneath that, you have the time spent doing what you're doing. And traditionally, this would be 20% of the time achieves most of your results. And then finally, you have the kind of oil that's holding the system all together, and that's the fun factor. So how much fun are you having doing what you're doing? Think about it this way. None of us need no motivation to watch another episode in Grey's Anatomy or another Netflix show because it's inherently fun. So if we're able to inject fun into whatever we're doing, it makes the process a lot smoother. And this equation comes from a YouTuber that I massively recommend you guys check out. His name is Ali Abdal. He's very into productivity, and watching him over the past year has brought an immense amount of value to my life. So go check him out. But this leads to breaking down the productivity framework into different buckets that we can allocate our time towards to maximize productivity. And these buckets can be kind of broken down into a framework of the plane, the pilot, and the engineer. So what these are different buckets to allocate our time towards that will ultimately maximize our productivity. So with the plane, this is when you're on kind of autopilot mode. This is the mode where you get things done and you put your head down and do work. The other part of this system is the pilot. So this is when you're directing the plane to go to a certain destination. This is when in the morning you're writing down all of your to-dos, or at night you're blocking out your calendar for the next day. This is where you're directing your direction. And then finally, there's the engineer. And the engineer tweaks the system to make sure that the plane is running that is both fuel efficient, which means that it's not using up too much energy, make sure that the plane is organized, and make sure that the plane is not having any detours or going on the wrong path. And so ultimately, we should be spending 80% of our time on autopilot mode, which is just getting the things that need to be done. And then we can spend 15% of the time on the pilot, which is directing the plane to the place that we wish to be. And then finally, we can spend 5% of our time engineering the system and making sure everything is running smoothly. And the way that these two systems work together is that you see the plane directs the output. So that's the volume of work that you're getting done. That's when you've got your head down, sending emails, doing work. Then you've got the pilot, and this directs your useful output. So it's making sure that whatever you're spitting out is actually useful towards the 80% of your results. And then finally, you've got the engineer, and the engineer works to reduce the time factor. And so you see this beautiful ecosystem that works together where you have your useful output, which is maximized through the plane and the pilot. And then you've got your time, which is minimized through engineering. And finally, and most importantly, you've got your fun factor, which increases the volume of your productivity because what you're doing is inherently fun. You're making what your situation is like fun through apps that you find are nice to use, or through a system that you find is really well integrated through your life. And so overall, hopefully this productivity framework can help you work smart and not hard. And feel free to take a screenshot of this if it's helpful at all. But thank you so much for listening, and I hope this brought some value to your life.